Welcome to Towards Zero Waste Holidays with Christin Walth. I'm Elizabeth Marcus. This program is brought to you by the Time Trade Network of Greater Newburyport, our community time bank, building community bonds by sharing skills and services based on time. Christin is the Towards Zero Waste guru in our area and is a member of the network. She's been working tirelessly for years to reduce the amount of waste generated in our community. She has spearheaded numerous initiatives, including the Curbside Composting Pilot, Repair Cafe Newburyport, and the recently launched Share Bank. Today, she will be focusing on how to reduce waste during the upcoming holiday season. It's a time of year when waste increases by 25 to 35%. Thanks for joining us today to share this important and timely information, Christin. Now it's over to you.
Okay, excellent. First of all, like I said, thank you guys so much for spending we don't have many more beautiful days left, so I'm terribly enthusiastic that you'd be willing to spend this time with me. So this is Taming of the Season of Excess, and I'm just going to jump right in. First of all, I'd like to start off by saying I am not the Grinch. I do not consider myself anti-season at all. However, I do feel like the holiday has become something of a chore, a burden, something to get through instead of to relax and savor and enjoy. And one of the things that kind of got me started on this was a book by Judith Levine called Not Buying It, My Year of Not Shopping. And she starts the book because she had some bad Christmas experience with all the gift buying and on and on and on. And it was really, that was what kind of started me on looking at what can we do to make the holidays more meaningful, less expensive, and less waste producing. And to that end, I've done a ton of research, and some of the statistics that I'd like to share with you include 75% of Americans would like to see the holidays be less materialistic. 90% of the Americans surveyed believe that the holidays should be more about family and caring and less about gifts and receiving gifts. And in 2015, the average American, spent well over $1,000 on gifts, and much of it was unbudgeted. Now, the other thing about this $1,000 is in 2000, I have to make sure I have the right number, 2018, the Federal Reserve report, every year the Federal Reserve comes out with a study on the economic well-being of households in the US. And in 2018, almost 40% of the households were in a position where if they had an unplanned $400 emergency expenditure, they would not be able to cover it with cash, savings, or credit card that they could quickly repay. So when you think about the average American spending $1,000 for holiday gifts, it's kind of hard to have that work well with the idea that so many Americans are working on a very small budget. In addition to that, I would like to say I'm not anti-holiday at all, definitely not the Grinch. What I am is anti-fossil fuel plastic toys that break right away, and everything that goes into producing the not very durable things that happen. So, as you may have seen in the introduction to this, to the invitation to this presentation, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and it means that a lot of things are happening, which means that a lot of more waste is being generated. And the overall national average is that 25%, that all households are producing at least 25% more trash. This is an average. In higher income areas, such as Essex County and Newburyport, that number is more like 35%. So it's very interesting to see that. And again, that's 140,000 garbage trucks more. Some things that are interesting about that is if every family reused just 2 feet of holiday ribbon, we would just these, and this is just US families, this is not worldwide, but if every American household decreased use of 2 feet, we would be able to tie a bow around the planet. If every American family took 3 gifts and used reused paper or some other form, we would be able to save wrapping paper enough to cover 45,000 football fields. And finally, of the 2.6 billion greeting cards that are sent out during the holiday season, that could fill a football field 10 stories high. So, and if we all sent 1 card less, that's 50,000 cubic yards of paper saved. So it gives you a little bit of an idea. So here I have a quote, and I don't know if you can all see it through the thing, so I'll just very quickly say it. 25 years ago, Christmas was not the burden that it is now. There was less haggling and weighing, less quid pro quo, less fatigue of body, less wearing of soul, and most of all, there was less loading up with trash. And this was in Harper's Bazaar. Can anybody have an idea of when this might have been written? Any thoughts? I won't ask you to unmute, but I will just share with you that it was 1904. So this excess consumerism actually started sometime in the 1880s, and this idea that we had to make the season something bigger than necessary. So what I'm going to do today is very quickly go through some ideas that I don't want to stop traditions, but there are ways to show love through traditions that still don't have to be so damaging to the planet. So with that, I am going to talk about decorating. And the first easy thing to think about is using things, don't have single-use things. Or if you're going to have single-use things, make sure that they're things that can be composted. We're very fortunate in Newburyport to have a yard waste facility as well as composting available. So real trimmings are not a problem. Fake trimmings, if you have them, please use them more than once. The biggest thing that I can talk about right now, and this is more this year and last year than any other year before, is finding of glitter to be a huge, huge microplastic issue. When they are dissecting whales and dolphins, they are finding glitter in these animals that have been beaching themselves. So it's a really horrible thing. However, you can see in the slide, there is compostable glitter. There are things that are made of bioplastic opposed to petroleum plastic that's available. Always avoid plastics. We'll talk about that later. But what I'd like to do now is ask you to prepare yourself to think about radicalism. And here's some ideas. So instead of your typical Christmas tree, is this something you could tolerate? Well, wait, that doesn't allow me to put up all of my own ornaments. What about something like this? This is really interesting because it can fold up very nicely into a box and be stored away for reuse. But wait, that doesn't feel so great. What about something like this? Oh, this is kind of cool because it's very relevant to our area. It's nice driftwood. No, that doesn't fit either. What about this? So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the Evergleam aluminum Christmas trees. They actually stopped producing them in 1973. However, they are making a huge comeback in the sustainability world. And if you go on eBay or other places, you can find a lot of them available. But wait, are you not ready to be that radical? That's fine. Let's talk very quickly about live versus chopped versus artificial trees. So it hasn't come here yet, but I think it's a great business idea, is the concept of live trees that you can rent. And the concept here is in New York City especially, they have trees that you have delivered the Friday after Thanksgiving, and they come pick it up on the 6th of January. And the whole thing is it's kind of you don't have to do anything, and the tree gets replanted. If you don't have that available, like we don't have here, think about buying a live tree that you can replant somewhere on your property or somebody else's. And then the two other options are buying a chopped tree or using up your artificial tree. And I say using up your artificial tree because if you have it, you should keep using it. But please don't buy a new one. Please don't buy a new one. Most of the artificial trees that you find, if you read the fine print, it says, and I have to read closely here, the labels say, avoid inhaling toxic lead dust from the tree's vinyl. So the concept that we would be introducing a poison as a decoration for our festivities is not good. But again, buying a chopped tree, we're very fortunate here in Newburyport that we have not only the yard waste facility, but we also have commercial composting, and we have the Spencer Pierce Little Farm, which I don't know if they're going to do it this year. And we also have the opportunity to feed goats. So one of my ideas is, if we don't do the Spencer Pierce Little Farm thing, if we can work with local farmers to see how many trees can they handle for their goats. Christmas lights, or I should say holiday lights, LED is the way to go. And I just brought a sample here. One of the things that's really great is the idea, I don't know if you can even see this, solar powered lights. So you don't even have to worry about having them plugged in. There's no need for extension cords and things like that. And when lights die, as they do, dispose responsibly. Once again, we're very fortunate here in Newburyport that our recycling center is happy to take Christmas tree lights and recycle for the wiring that's in there. Next, I'd like to talk very quickly about greeting cards. If you're doing a family photo, please do it on plain paper. If you do it on the glossy paper, it is not recyclable. If you do it on the plain paper, you can also request that it's done on recycled paper. So you're creating a market for the aftermarket for recycled paper. If you're not a family photo kind of person and you want to send out box cards, again, looking to be as plain as possible. Any foil, any glitter, any glue makes them not recyclable. And that's a problem as far as waste is concerned. And once again, in addition to having them as plain as possible, that doesn't mean not colorful, just not with the embellishments. Looking for ones that have recycled content can make you feel better too, that you're helping with the aftermarkets. And then the big one is, and something that I find really exciting, is the idea of e-cards, because they don't have to just be as season's greetings. I have lots of friends that are sending me videos or slideshows that go through their year and show what each of the kids is doing. And I pulled up a couple of them from friends from last year. I have a friend in Norway who does this huge thing. It's a 5-minute video, but it's so much fun. The good thing about this too is that you are not spending time writing out labels and stamps, and you have a memory that's left over for you to go back and review as well. Oh, I wanted to say one other thing about that is, no, I don't. I lied. So now we're getting into the big one. This is the one that, this is my personal issue. Gift giving is something that's as old as the day is long. I'm going to go back a slide for just a moment. And I want to share some statistics, a lot of them coming from not buying it, some of them coming from on the next slide, you'll see a PhD student did her entire thesis on the idea of holiday gift giving and what it meant as far as economics and waste, etc. Some of these statistics come from both of those. 28% of shoppers are entering the holiday season buying gifts when they still have not paid off last year's gifts. Over 50% of holiday shoppers either overspend on their budget or don't bother setting a budget at all. Consumers who went into debt over the holiday season last year racked up over $1,000 worth of debt. So gift giving is recognized as an expression of love, and it has been for thousands of years in all sorts of ways. But maybe it's time that we look at it differently and take a radical approach to how we change it. And the sooner, the better, as far as waste is concerned. So this is from the student that I spoke about earlier. I'm sure you've heard some of this before. Making over $75,000 a year does not mean any increase in happiness. Life satisfaction is entirely non-material. Adding to your collection of goods has actually been shown to be a detriment to overall contentment. Happiness comes from relationships, not things, and time in nature improves health and well-being. So we're ready to get radical. I'll take just a moment. I'll go ahead and read this because it might be, the type might be kind of tight, short for you guys, or I shouldn't say short, tiny for you guys. And that is one less gift. This is meant to be something that you can print out and exchange with people that you traditionally have gifts with. I appreciate your generous spirit, but I want to let you know that I have all the things I could possibly want. Therefore, I'm giving you this one less gift certificate. Instead of exchanging presents, let's find other ways to enjoy the season together. We'll each have one less gift to worry about and save a little time, money, and stress, as well as our planet's resources. Memories last much longer than any material thing. And one thing about this too is, you know what? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to create a memory during the season either. One of the friends that I exchanged this little card with, we both decided that we would take each other out to lunch in January or February when things just weren't that hectic. And it's been very nice. Another radical idea is something called the So Kind Registry, and you can see the website down below. So Kind Registry is a website. It's very easy to register, and you can go on and you can list all the things that you truly want. And it gives some ideas of experiences, all sorts of different things. Buy snacks and ingredients from Loop. Has everybody heard about Loop? I don't know if you have. It's actually an organization that they send you goods, including ice cream, in reusable packaging. If we have time at the end and you're interested, I'll pull Loop up. It's a subscription service. You don't have to, I shouldn't say it's a subscription. You do have to join. There's no cost to join. But then, for example, when I order almonds, they come in a container, a metal container, no plastic. And when I'm done with the almonds, I put them back in the mailing pouch, and it goes back, and I get back my deposit on the metal container. So it's a unique idea. It's only recently come to the Boston area. I think it's actually now reaching out over most of the US, but I'd encourage you to take a look. And like I said, if there's interest, I'm happy to bring it up. Another idea is to buy ingredients and snacks from Sun and Swell. I get no paybacks from any of these companies, just things that I've discovered. They have compostable packaging. So I'll just show, this is Sun and Swell. They have different kinds of flowers and seeds and snacks and blah, 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 blah. But what's interesting is all of their packaging is commercially compostable. So if you have curbside service or you're willing to take it to the water treatment facility where Newburyport has a commercial compost drop-off for free, all of these items can be composted. Special meals, I really won't go into a lot of detail here because everybody knows that cloth napkins, if you've bothered to log on here, you know that cloth napkins are better than paper napkins. You know that real dining ware is better than plastic and paper plates. Dish towels are better than paper towels, etc. But once again, I have to put in my plug for ShareBank. And if nobody's taken a look, if you go to sbnbpt, which I'll send out to everybody.com, you can take a look at all of the things we have. We have extra place settings. We have silverware. We have tablecloths. We have pots. We have pans. We have cake tins. We have utensils. You name it. There's no need to go with anything that's single use, because if you don't have enough in your own collection, you can borrow it for free from ShareBank. Special meals, the other part about special meals is the pre and post food waste. So all of that needs to go into compost to be most sustainable. Once again, I'm sure all of you know that commercial composters take meats, fats, dairies, and bones, which you cannot put in your backyard composting. But we also have, if you don't subscribe, we have a drop-off point at the water treatment facility for Newburyport residents. So this is something I bring up only because I thought it was really interesting. This is something that a local plumbing organization just posted. I never use a disposal anyway. I know what the disposal does, and a disposal is a bad thing and we shouldn't be using it anyway. Anything that goes down the drain that is not water means that there has to be more oxidation in the water treatment facility, which is very bad for all of the creatures that live in the wide open water. But I thought that this was interesting too, in that I didn't know that eggshells were bad for disposal. I thought the carrot peels and potato peels were fine for disposal. I would never do it because of like I said, because of the composting, but it was interesting to me how many things you shouldn't put down the disposal anyway. And I'll look at the oils and grease and just share with you. I don't know how many of you know that the water treatment pipe, or I should say the wastewater pipe under State Street has something that is called a fatberg. And it's just like an artery that is getting covered with fat. So it's not draining well. And someday we're going to have to do something about this. The number one thing is to stop putting grease, fats, and oils of any kind down the sink, because our flow is not what it should be. We've tightened, it's like a bad artery getting clogged. So we should never have oils and grease in there anyway. We should all be composting. And if you do ever have cooking oil or other kinds of oil, we actually take food oils at the recycling center over on Colby Farm Lane. And finally, the last thing I'd like to talk about is, I don't think that it actually needs to be discussed this year, unfortunately, is the idea of having special guests during the holidays. And one of the things, this is just again a shameless plug for ShareBank Newburyport, which is here you can see the web address, is if you have guests coming that might have special needs, whether they need a high chair, a booster seat, crib, playpen, games, a shower chair, crutches, in-house wheelchair, things like that, please check out ShareBank. Please don't bother buying things that you only need for a short time. ShareBank is all about access versus ownership, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to things that they need, that they don't necessarily need to own. So I will end with that and just say, if you're still awake and you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saw advertised somewhere on the internet the beeswax covers instead of using. Are they good? I haven't tried them.
So you know what? I'm going to be honest. They're good. They're good. They're not the same as Saran wrap. Some other things that have been better than Saran wrap, and if you'd like, I can send you samples or pictures. There are these silicone lids that you can.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are actually better than the beeswax things. I've been using the beeswax things. I actually went to a class where we made them and poured extra wax in them. They're not as good as some of the other things that you will find, and they're not as airtight.
Yeah, it seemed to me that they didn't look very airtight.
Right. So these silicone covers, I think, are far, far better. I hate to even say this, but aluminum foil, the good thing about aluminum foil is if you keep it clean and you ball it up enough so that it's at least 2 inches, it can actually go in your curbside recycling. So anytime you can get away from plastic is bad, and especially film plastic, that's a better answer for you.
Where do you get the lids? Where could you get those?
I'll look them up. I know that there are tons from
online.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to guess that Plum. Oh my God!
Stonewall Kitchen used to sell them.
Yeah, I think Stonewall had them. And what's the store? I have it on one of my slides.
Port Plum.
Thank you, Port Plum. I know that they used to have them at one time. I haven't been in any stores in so long, I don't know anymore.
Okay.
Also, the new Zero Waste store. My guess is they might have them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, where's the new Zero Waste store?
It is at the right. If you're going down right where Merrimack Street becomes Water Street. on the water side of the street. I don't remember what store it replaced at this point.
Is it the end? I think I know which one it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's right across from Soufflés.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Kristen, any ideas for what to do with if you have a lot of wrapping paper rather than, I mean, do you just use it or?
Yes, absolutely. Never not use anything that's already in possession, use up. And I was going to say, you know what? I'm going to take a moment to turn on this light because it is getting darker in here. And one of the things that I think is interesting is I'm going to show so just as an example, somebody gave me, this is a very foily wrapping paper. So I've been working on collecting boxes that I can use this on tops and bottoms. So I can maybe use it 2 or 3 times opposed to just once. But yes, if you already have a stash, please use it up. Don't throwing it away without being used is not useful either.
No. Do you want some for your ShareBank exchange? Not really? You don't want to encourage use? Well, you might.
I've been wrapping gifts or wrapping these boxes for a long time now. I'm kind of wearing out, but if I can, I might. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. I was thinking Leeward Light if I didn't.
Oh, you can try. You can try them. And you know, there was a woman who, her daughter was collecting for some charity because they did not have enough wrapping and all of that. So there are different places that you can do it too. But I'd be happy to take it so that if I can find a good use for it, I'll put it to good use.
Okay. Well, I have plenty, so embarrassed to say.
When you were talking about all the waste for Christmas gifts and stuff, it reminded me of a story. Oh gosh, it was in the 1980s, I guess, and we were at my in-laws, and all the kids were tearing through presents and not even looking at them, and just ripping it open, going to another one. And I just got so angry. I stood up and I said, that's it. From now on, every Christmas, no more exchanging gifts. We're just going to give to charities in your name. And that's what we've done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And my mom has done that to some extent too. One of the things that we all have kind of thought about and is, you know, giving gifts on a prescribed date is somewhat contrived and loses the sense of the season. So we have decided we're not exchanging gifts at all. If I see something that's good for my mom, I send it to her in the middle of the year, whatever. You know, I'm not going to be held to a birthday, a Mother's Day. The calendar is not going to dictate when I give a gift. And it seems to mean so much more. And it's something that, you know, I might come across something opposed to feeling like I've got to find something. Which is not, that's a stress feeling when you come across something that you get.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, some of the gifts I got, like you said, boy, they went right to, you know, some charity or something because they weren't even anything I would ever use. But, and then when we did even use gifts, I always did the paper bag, you know, the paper bags or the cloth bags or the paper bags that we use time after time after time. I have some of them that, I don't know, because we haven't done gifts in so long. They're probably 20 years old.
Isn't that awesome? So we used to have certain, my mom was a pro at reusing boxes, you know, and having them. And we'd always wonder, well, who got the red box this year? Who got the blue box this year? And that was kind of fun.
But this is, I did not know that you could not recycle tissue paper. Yeah, interesting.
That was interesting. I didn't know that either.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but I have a comment and I have a question. So just when I love the furoshiki wrapping. I've experimented with that in the past, and I use napkins. Like I would go to a thrift store.
Antique house.
Yeah. And you can just pick them up there. And I just loved it, and people loved it. It's really, really fun. And there are a lot of really great videos on YouTube about how to wrap different items using them. And then the question I had was about the bulk plastic recycling, because I think I just saw something about bringing toys to the plastic toys, and I just wanted to ask you a little more about that, the details.
I'm so glad that you did, because one of the things, so we're spending a lot of money on this, to be honest, because it's not a cheap waste stream at all. And one of the ways to keep costs down is to make sure that we're only putting the right things in there and that we're putting them in the right way. So one of the things that we're putting in there that we're getting a lot are car seats, children's car seats. And my encouragement is if you're bringing a car seat, is please dismantle it entirely before you come, because we need the styrofoam out, we need the fabric off, we need all metals off. It can only be the bulk plastics. So the little trike thing, we need the petals off. We can't have any metals in there that will quote unquote contaminate the stream. So this is something, we're doing it. There's a cost to it. It does not break even. It would actually be cheaper for us to put these things in the trash, but it's horrible to put them in the trash. It's awful to put them in the trash from an environmental perspective. But in order to keep this as cheap as possible, we need to avoid fines for any other material. And I understand we get a lot of people who are frustrated and they just want to drop it off and say, you take care of it. Well, most of us that are working there are volunteers. So when we're trying to deal with hundreds of other people, no, I'm not going to spend a half hour taking apart your car seat. You need to take it home and throw it away then and take responsibility for it. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit of a lecture there.
No, that was what.
Anybody else?
I have just another question about.
It has to have like 1 through 7 or whatever it is on it. Is that the same for?
Oh no! So jugs and jars and I'm sorry, Doreen. I think Elizabeth froze on us for a moment. Jars and jugs and things like that that come from your kitchen, bath, or laundry, those can all go into your curbside recycling. But bulk plastics do not have to have a number. They don't. You just bring them to First Saturdays. And they won't,
right.
Most of them won't have a number because they're a whole bunch of different kinds of plastics. Or if they do have a number, it'll be a number 7, which is the kind of catch-all. I'm sorry, go ahead, Doreen.
The Saturdays, the first Saturdays of the month, because of COVID, do you have to make an appointment to go, or can you still just go?
You can still just come, but we're trying very hard to keep it to 10 cars at a time. So you might end up waiting a little bit.
Okay.
The last couple of Saturdays have not been that bad that I know of. But no, you do not, we don't have it as an appointment. I will say that as our numbers keep going up, I would check before I come, because I'm not sure how much longer we should be doing this if we don't have this under control.
I guess that was one.
I have some things that like stuff I need to have shredded.
Okay, so shredding is actually, we only offer shredding once a year. Yeah, shredding is only during Household Hazardous Waste Day. I actually have a whole document on shredding. First of all, are you sure that it needs to be shredded? Because if you shred something, you have devalued the paper beyond recycling. There's nothing good about it. So if you can either tear out the parts that you don't want to share, or if you can black them out with Sharpie, that is your best way to do it. If you absolutely need to get it shredded, totally understand. I know that. You. But then you need to either find out when banks are having shredding days. And to be honest, most banks do their shredding in May after taxes are done.
Oh, okay.
Or you can take it to shred it in the industrial park. Now, what's good about Shred It is since it's a single stream thing, they actually do recycle the paper. It gets made into toilet paper and paper towels and things like that. But shredded paper can never go in curbside recycling.
Right, but I know.
Can I ask a question about your bag and tissue paper that you're giving out? Are there any concerns, since we're in a pandemic, about used?
I'm so glad you asked. So according to the CDC, there have been no transmission from what is called fomite transmission. There's been no surface to human transmission that has been recorded. The other thing about the bags is what we would suggest, if you're at all concerned, and you have every right to be concerned, is come take all the bags that you want, take them home, put them in a shopping bag or something like that, and then go wash your hands thoroughly before you touch anything else. And then leave those bags for a period of time that you feel comfortable. I think the longest period that they found that any COVID cells can exist is 72 hours on paper. So you can just set it in that bag, leave it alone for a couple of days, and there should be no problem. But I want to emphasize again that, and as far as I know, there has been zero fomite transmission. That is surface to human transmission, which is why we're allowed to bring our bags to the grocery stores again and all of those kind of things.
Right.
I have a question, Kristen. This is Chris Cernick, and it is about brown paper bags. I've collected so very many of them in the past 6 months. The supermarket bags. Do you know of anybody who can use them? I've generally used them. Actually, I've used them to cover books, and I've used them to wrap presents and put colorful ribbon on them. But I probably have about 30, and I'm happy to give them to someone who can use them.
I don't know of anybody myself, but you know about Free Cycle and Curb Alert. I would definitely post it up there because I'm sure somebody is going to be doing something useful, because all they are is a heavy duty craft paper. So that's great.
Right. I also thought about taking them over to maybe Leeward Light. They can use them for, when people are buying things.
And you know what else? You might try our neighbor's table. They might need
Great idea.
And I use them to put my trash out instead of a plastic bag.
Right.
And I use the
So do you need any more of them?
I'll trade them for newspaper.
Oh, okay, great.
All right.
Would you like them, Elizabeth?
I would.
Oh, great. Okay. I have about 20. I do have about 25 or 30. So we'll do that trade.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I super appreciate your interest. It gives me
Thank
so
you.
much hope that we're making little tiny inroads to changing our thinking, that this doesn't have to be so painful for the planet, and yet we can still enjoy the holidays in the most sustainable way possible. So if you do have any more questions later on, please feel free to email me. I think Elizabeth has my email available, but you can also just email towards Zero Waste Newburyport, all spelled out, at outlook.com if you come up with anything else that I can help with.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So the So Kind Registry gives this idea that there are different ways that you can approach gift giving. And if it's not on your list, maybe you don't want it. A couple of my friends do this on a family level, and it's been very, very successful. I do this with several friends, but once again, what we've decided is we do not do this during the holidays either. The So Kind Registry is something that we're using during the middle of the year, so that it's one less thing off the list during the actual holiday season. So why am I so anti-gifts? Here are some of the reasons. 53.1% of the people report receiving unwanted gifts during Christmas. $16 billion is wasted on unwanted gifts each year. Think about how that could help with poverty situations, with environmental situations, with education, and especially right now with treating the pandemic. 18%, almost 1/5 of gifts are never used by the person who receives them. And that one was stunning to me, but then I tested this on my dad and he said, oh no, it's more like 90%, 90. And 4% are immediately thrown into trash. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is, what is the best idea, the best way to express love during this time of year? Well, what about thinking about what time of year, what year we're actually in? So this is Who Gives a Crap, sorry. This is Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. It's all recycled or bamboo. And it comes in paper wrapping, no plastic whatsoever. And this has been my go-to gift all year. I got both of my parents subscriptions to it, so I can sleep at night knowing that they can dab their nose with the tissues. If they have to use paper towels, they can use paper towels with less guilt, and that they have enough TP. It's all good. There are several other companies that do this. This is just the one I happen to know about. So there are other types of gifts that people can exchange. If you feel like you have to exchange, charitable gifts are a big one. One of the things that I've been doing for years now is I have a parcel of goddaughters and godsons, and I give them gift certificates to Kiva. And if you don't know what Kiva is, it is a micro loaning situation where you can go onto kiva.org and you have people from all around the world asking for a loan, a micro loan. A lot of these are asking for $1,000 to buy more straw for their cows or something like that. And it's a way to make sure that a lot of these kids are aware of how much privilege we have, how much security we have in this country. But there are also people who ask for microloans here in the United States as well. So it's just something to think about because it's a really cool way, and it engages with the kids too. And it's not only for kids. I'll mention just really quickly, my mother used to be the chairman of the board for the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. So it was dead easy to make a donation to the Natural History Museum and just let her know about it. And I knew that it pleased her more than anything that I could have purchased for her. But she asked for other things as well, which I'll get into on this slide. And that is other non-traditional gifts. I don't think that anything here is necessarily anything that nobody else has thought of, but I will share a couple of ideas that might resonate. Something that I've lived here close to 20 years. And one of the things I desperately want to do is go to the JFK library. I don't know why I haven't arranged it yet, but it just never seems to happen. So one of the gifts that I would like, and I think I've already got a taker, is I want one of my friends to just organize this day for me and say, I want to take you to the JFK library and remove the decision-making and the research that's required. And I think all of us have a lot of decisions, the micro decisions that make you exhausted or prohibit you from trying something new. It's kind of a way of shifting that and making it something special. Another thing, so I'm going to share a little bit that we had a really bad name for this, but my mom used to like to have a very big open house for the holidays, very, very big. And we would be her servants. And it was kind of servant day. She didn't say please or thank you. She just told us what to do and to get it done. And in her role with the museum, I've helped out with a lot of her big parties and fundraisers and things like that. And once again, it's kind of being an extra pair of hands. And I happen to know that that means more to her than any other item that I could pay money for, just being able to get things done and to relieve stress. And I think a lot of that, I ask the same back of her. I don't like mending, so she does my mending for me. Anytime my father comes to visit, there is a daddy do list. There are gifts of time and giving you freedom, dog sitting, babysitting, etc. And then finally, the one that kind of goes with the museum one and how I got this idea is my mom used to give me and my sister an envelope each year, and it was a date with mom. And it meant that the other kid was getting babysat, so that you were the entire focus. There was nothing, mom was paying attention to no one but you. And one of the ones that I remember most is going to a high tea with mom. And I can honestly say, looking back to a childhood of gifts, there are very few toys that I remember receiving, but I remember almost each and every one of my one-on-one time with mom. Okay, enough about that. Kind of what I was talking about before was the idea of making arrangements and removing barriers and helping people get things off their list. So helping around the house, on and on and on. I'll just share one quick one. My friend was having her 60th birthday. She grew up in California, but she's spent her entire adult life in Sweden. She was having her birthday party in Jamaica. She was getting so stressed about having, I think there were 20 of us, maybe more, doing it. So I just said, you know what? Instead of getting you some silly over the hill sign or whatever that everybody else is going to get you, I will coordinate the trip. I will get everything organized. I will do all the communication. And I promise you that meant more to her than anything else I could have gotten her. Definitely better than any of the over the hill jokey, silly gifts. Which, speaking of which, gag gifts are terrible. They're just terrible. So when I think about going more traditional with gifts, you think about consumables and you think about durables. A lot of times consumables are single-use things that are not of value, but there can be splurges. So for example, I love hot chocolate, but I only like really good hot chocolate. Like Swiss Miss doesn't cut it for me. So I happen to have a friend who has gone to Switzerland numerous times, and she brings me really good hot chocolate that I would never in a million years pay for myself. Like that's beyond the scope. So that's something. But again, I want to go back to the gag gifts. My poor father seems to be a magnet for gag gifts. So I thought of that one that he had. But also, does anybody remember the bass fish of a couple of years ago? My poor father got 5 of them. And he had 0 use for any of them. I mean, he didn't want 1, let alone 5. So he doesn't fish, by the way. He doesn't like bass. There's nothing. It's just like people felt like they had to exchange gifts. So let's do this one. So one of the things I always like to think about, and I encourage people to think about before they try and give me anything, is how long until this gift will be a burden. And if you think about it, gag gifts are about 5 seconds. Everybody gets a little laugh over it. And then what do you do with it? So this is something that I just think needs to be done. I'm going to go off on a little deviation here. I think Yankee Homecoming is a great thing. People enjoy it. But oh my gosh, the parade with all of the people selling those crappy little plastic things that the kids take home and break 20 minutes later makes me crazy. So in any case, that's my whole thing on buying better. My gift buying decision tree, and one that is recommended by others, is this product made from recycled content? Am I, at least if I'm buying something, am I creating a demand for the aftermarket that encourages people to keep recycling, to keep that system going? Is this product reusable, recyclable, or compostable? When it's at the end of life, does it have a place to go? And if it does have a place to go, and how can I make sure that the recipient knows what to do with it to be most responsible? And some other things about it, I'm telling I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but what you buy and where you buy totally matters. Fast fashion is a horrible, horrible thing. There's a relatively new book out that will make you cry every time you see a $5 t-shirt. It's called Overdressed, the shockingly high cost of cheap fashion. And I have a whole nother presentation on that if anybody's ready to cry. But the other thing to do that could be interesting if you are scrounging for a gift for somebody is to look up B Corps. B Corps, it's short for Benefit Corporation, and they're a 501c3 who have set up a bunch of standards of how companies can be more sustainable. So to be a B Corp, you have to be concerned about profits, but you also have to be concerned about people and planet as well. So a lot of times when I'm stumped for a gift, I'll just go to the B Corp site and I'll look up all of the different companies that have qualified as benefit corporations to get some ideas. I don't need to tell you, you're giving me a Friday afternoon with beautiful weather. Local matters. I won't say anything more about it, but more today this year than any other time. The other thing I'll say is when you have to go to Amazon, I'm not going to read all of this because it's boring, but there are ways to make sure that your impact is mitigated through Amazon, through different programs that they have. Frustration-free packaging, making sure that you get all of your packages at the same time, even if you have to wait a little while, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here are some silly, not necessarily silly ideas. One of the things that I do is I'd like to give gifts that guide people into sustainable living. So you can see, I hope I can, yeah. Here we have silicone bags to replace plastic bags. They are awesome. Here we, sorry. Here we have Stojo cups, which are collapsible coffee cups that you can take to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or what have you. These are reusable, washable ear swabs, metal straws, tissue packs that have fabric tissues. So we stopped with the single-use tissues, cotton rounds that you can just pull off, Swedish dish towels that can replace both sponges and tea towels. I'm not sure if this is hidden from you the way it is with me, but these are New Zealand dryer balls that not only make it not necessary, if you do use a dryer, I try not to. If you do use a dryer and you put in these balls, they eliminate the need for the laundry sheets, the dryer sheets, and they cut your drying time. And then down here, this is perhaps the most important one and one of the things that I'm most uptight about. And that is anytime I give anybody a fleece of anything, I will give them one of these balls. And this is, now I'm having a complete blank on what the name of it is. You can find them on numerous sites. I think I pulled this one off of Grommet. It collects the microplastics that come off every time you wash any kind of fleece, petroleum-based fleece. So one of the things I think I mentioned with the glitter is microplastics are becoming such a problem. Anything that we can do to stop producing them or at least capture them in some way is something that I find very, very compelling and important. Buy better toys. So here are some companies that are doing some great things. Uno, their cards are now recyclable, and they have stopped putting cellophane around the card decks. Fisher Price, these little, I think everybody had them. They are, by the end of this year, or maybe next, they're going to be based on sugar plastics, bioplastics, instead of petroleum plastics. This is Lego. Lego has now gone to entirely recycled material for their packaging, and they're working very hard to move from petroleum-based plastic to plant-based plastic or bioplastics for their actual products. Little Tyke, all of the little things here, they are working hard at going to bioplastics as well. Right now, they're using recycled plastics as much as possible. And they're also making sure that people know that if your community has bulk plastic recycling, that their items can go there. And Newburyport is very fortunate that we do have bulk plastic recycling available at the recycling center. You can't put it on the curb, but you can bring it to First Saturdays at the recycling center. So now let me move on to here. Gifts. Let's pretend that it's all over. We're done buying. We've got everything that we need. How many catalogs are still coming in to your mailbox? So here's some startling statistics just to scare you a little bit. 1 year of catalogs just in the US is 62 million trees. Paper accounts for over about 40% of the waste stream. And Americans spend $275 million to dispose of junk mail. That's recycling, processing fees, etc. Each human in the United States gets about 41 pounds of junk mail, and that's 4 million tons altogether. And 40% of it gets thrown away without ever being opened. The average adult is on 50 mailing lists. So when you're done doing your catalog shopping, how can you get rid of all of these? Well, the first thing is there are 4 different areas, but I can go into much more on an individual basis. You can call the catalog company or even email or go on their website and say, I want off your list, and they will do so. Or you can go to something called catalogchoice.org and you can say, I want off all catalogs. And once you do that, you get off of their general list. But then if catalogs keep coming in, you report them to Catalog Choice and they will specifically go out to them. DMA is the Data and Marketing Association. You can go on their website and it's a $2 fee. But for this $2 fee, you are promised that for 10 years, you will not be added to any of their lists. There's opt-out pre-screen. That is also a website that is specifically for credit card offers and insurance offers. And then those dang Val packs that show up all the time. This is the way to get off of their lists as well. If you need any details on any of this, I am happy to share. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I am very, very excited to get your gift requests help. If you have somebody that you can tell me a little bit about them, I will be glad to investigate what kind of sustainable type gift you might be of interest to you. We're nearing the end, or I should say we're actually not nearing the end, but we're on the downslope. Gift wrapping is my Waterloo, I guess I could say. Here are some startling statistics for you, and let me share that I think some of these I shared with you before, but 30 million trees. And if you think of carbon sequestration, think of what 30 million trees could do for our planet if they were soaking up some more of our carbon. So in 2012, The Atlantic magazine did a great article on Wrapper's Delight, the brief history of wrapping paper. And one of the things that I wanted to share from that is that giving up wrapping paper does not necessarily mean that your tree won't look good. These are some of the examples, and I'm going to bring over a whole bunch of examples of different things that we have. Can't see at ShareBank, and I'll tell about ShareBank in just a moment. But we have a whole bunch of bags here. Let me do this. We have a whole bunch of bags of different sizes that people can borrow to do their gifting. And now I've lost one of them that's very important. Give me a second. There we go. Okay. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But I have a little quiz question for you, and you don't have to unmute. But wrapping paper is almost exactly 100 years old. It's 101 years old, as a matter of fact. Wrapping paper really started, the idea that you couldn't give a gift without hiding what it was, started in 1919. And it was started by 2 brothers, and I want to make sure, Joyce and Raleigh. Joyce and Raleigh developed wrapping paper and made it something a mainstream. And I'm going to give you their last name. Their last name was Hall. Does anybody have any idea who they were? It's the Hallmark brothers. So you have a good idea of what their motivation was and how this all got started. So our alternatives are numerous. And there's no way that we need to spend all that time, money, and resource on wrapping paper. So furoshiki is it's the Japanese art of fabric wrapping. There's also a Korean version. There's also a Chinese version. But wrapping paper is usually thought of mostly as a Western Europe and US concept, because the Eastern countries have been using fabric wraps for not, I want to say thousands of years. But we have also we've also have a whole bunch of furoshika wraps at ShareBank for people to borrow during the holidays, but not just for holidays. What about for birthdays and anniversaries and any other time that there's gift giving? So one of the things that I've done is I've gone through all the different ways of substituting for wrapping paper and tried to look at the pros and cons of each and what it means. So furoshika is just dead easy. It's a piece of fabric. In some cases, it's a nice piece of fabric that's been, beautifully sewn. But it doesn't have to be expensive. It's easy to reuse. It's dead easy to store. It lasts forever, and it's incredibly colorful and useful and everything else. And we have numerous examples of furoshiki at the ShareBank. And if you don't know what ShareBank is, we'll talk about it at the end. But I'm plugging ShareBank here. And there are all sorts of different ways that you can tie up, and there are YouTube channels. And one of my dear friends and loyal assistants, her name is Anna Cameron. She is becoming quite the pro at this, and I'm sure I could con her into doing a lot of wrapping for people if people were interested in this. Next are the idea of cloth bags. And as you saw, I have a ton of cloth bags in different sizes, but they're easy enough to order on Etsy. They're even easy enough to make yourself. So they're a bit more expensive than the furoshiki, but they're easy to reuse. They're very festive. They're very easy to store. They last forever. And I would just want to show, they can be, this one is specifically for Christmas with the red trim and the green ribbon, and you can tie it up in a bow, and it can look lovely, absolutely lovely. One of the things with both of these is if you're giving these outside the family, you might not be able to get them back. And that's fine too. What if they can be used by other people? What can we do to continue this? However, the ones that we have from ShareBank, we do want those back because we want to make sure that we keep that going. So festive, colorful, and again, a shameless plug for ShareBank. Tins are very useful, very effective. They're a little bit more difficult to store because they might take up more room, but how great. I mean, they look fabulous under the tree. Paper gift bags, not as expensive, but they don't hold up so well. They're easy to store. You can just press them flat. You can recycle some of them if they're not embellished with foil or glues and glitter and etc. We do ask that you remove the handle before you put them into a recycling. And some people would say that they require tissue paper, which, yeah, I can get that. Yeah, can kind of make it fluffy. One thing to know about tissue paper is not recyclable. It is compostable if it's not infused with glitter or things like that. Even colored is available. You can compost it, but please do not put tissue paper in your recycling bin. It turns into a paper mache if it gets even slightly wet, and the fibers are already too short to do anything with as far as recycling. So here's a shameless plug. The first Saturday, we have First Saturdays at the Recycling Center. And this upcoming First Saturday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will be doing a gift bag exchange. This is something where you can come and take. We have, I'm going to guess, 500 gift bags, most of them in pristine condition. Lots of them special for the holidays. A lot of different sizes as well. You are welcome to come between 8 and 10:30 and take whatever you want. And not only that, but we have tissue paper out the wazoo that matches, and you can mix and match. And if you have some bags that you don't want to use, you're welcome to bring them and drop them off. Again, this will be the first Saturday in December, and it'll be from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And we hope that lots and lots of people will come and take lots and lots of bags and lots of tissue paper. Nesting boxes are another great thing. We actually have a set of nesting boxes available through ShareBank if you'd like to try them out. But they're great because they look fabulous, and you can pile them into each other for storage, so it's not as much storage. They are a little bit more expensive than some of the other ideas, but if you look on Amazon or Etsy, especially on Etsy, there are lots of great ideas. Finally is the idea of permanent wrapped boxes, the idea that you have a top and a bottom and you wrap them each separately. So instead of ripping the paper off, you just gently take the lid off and you can reuse. They are a bit more difficult. They up front, it takes a little bit more time to wrap. And they're a little bit more difficult to store because you don't know that you can put them all together. But if you have a lot of wrapping paper and you have a lot of boxes with lids, boxes with topses, it's a great idea. So now, what if that, no, I can't do that. I have to have gift wrap. I like the hours of cutting and taping, and I always get tons and tons of paper cuts. And I really like the idea of all that trash that I have to throw away at the end of this. And I don't want to miss that opportunity. Okay, so there is recycled gift wrap and there's recyclable gift wrap. Often it's one and the same. I just found one company that I thought was interesting called Rapidly. And they even have cotton ribbons. And the idea with the cotton ribbons is if you don't want to reuse it, you can compost it. Once again, no ribbons ever go in curbside recycling, but you have them available. If you do cotton ribbons, you can put them into composting. And craft paper, something you can decorate yourself. So this is something that was kind of interesting. This was a New York Times ad. I think it was December 5th of last year. And it is actually an ad by a company called Love, Beauty, and Planet. And they do personal care items. And what they did is they bought a full sheet of the New York Times and said, please use this as wrapping paper. So trying to promote the idea of better use of newsprint. And I thought it was a really great idea. So I hope they're going to do it again this year. I haven't heard, but it's a nice idea. The other thing is the idea of using potato chip bags as wrapping paper. If you wash out your potato chip bag and turn it inside out, it makes a beautiful, lovely foil gift wrap that at least you can't recycle it after you use it, but at least you've gotten a second use out of something that's already been in your house. Now we're almost done. We're really getting close. Special foods are associated with a lot of the different holidays that take place here. So one of the things you can do to be more sustainable is to buy in bulk from the natural grocer on High Street or Whole Foods. Bring in your own bags to keep things so you don't have to use plastic bags. Buying local, I can't say it enough. We need to support our local stores. And there's so many, we are so lucky to have so many great stores around us.